Daniel Brooks returned to his childhood home on a gray March afternoon, the kind where the sky never fully committed to rain. At 34, recently divorced and exhausted by silence, the house felt less like a refuge and more like a task he had postponed for years. The place hadn't changed much. Same narrow staircase, same unfurnished basement with exposed beams and concrete walls, same faint smell of dust and old pain that clung to memory. His father, Frank Brooks, had died 3 years earlier. Heart failure, officially. Daniel hadn't been present. That absence weighed heavier than the boxes stacked near the basement door. He told himself this move was practical, temporary, just until he figured things out. That was what he said out loud. The first strange thing Daniel noticed wasn't dramatic, it was logistical. Every time he carried a box upstairs from the basement door was open when he came back down. Every single time. At first, he blamed habit. Maybe he wasn't closing it fully, maybe the old hinges were loose. But one evening, deliberately, he shut the door hard, felt the latch click, even tugged on it to be sure. He picked up a heavy box of old tools and climbed the stairs. When he returned, the door stood open again, wide enough to feel intentional. Nothing else was disturbed, just the door. Over the next few days, the house began doing small favors. Shelves Daniel hadn't mounted yet were suddenly level. Paint cans he had left scattered were lined neatly against the wall. A ladder he had leaned poorly now rested safely, angled exactly right. Only one rule applied. It happened only when his hands were full. If Daniel entered the basement empty-handed, nothing changed. No movement, no sound. The house felt dead, inert. But when he carried boxes, furniture, or tools, when he was burdened, the space subtly rearranged itself. The shadows shifted too. He noticed them sliding along the walls, not cast by light but by absence. They moved when he moved, but only when he couldn't turn quickly enough to catch them. Daniel told himself this was a stress, muscle memory, renovation fatigue. But one afternoon, his sister Lena stopped mid-sentence. "Did you just move the shelf?" she asked. Daniel shook his head. Daniel stood in silence, staring at the perfectly aligned brackets. Neither of them touched anything. Daniel stopped carrying things alone. He took frequent breaks, set boxes down deliberately, watched the basement from the top of the stairs before entering. Sometimes he left the door open on purpose, just testing it. Nothing happened when he was cautious. The house only reacted when he relied on it. Lena noticed his tension and brushed it off. "Old house settled," she said. "They creak, they shift." But she refused to go into the basement alone. Daniel began sleeping lightly. He dreamt of footsteps stopping whenever he turned his head, of weight pressing against his back, steadying him. One night, while moving a heavy dresser, he slipped on the stairs. Something got him. Firm, immediate, precise. Not the railing, not the wall. Hands. Daniel stood frozen, heart racing, the dresser still balanced against his chest. Slowly, the pressure eased, withdrawing as if it had never been there. He stood upright, unhurt. The dresser didn't fall. Daniel whispered, without knowing why, "Thanks." The basement was silent. The second touch was different. Days later, while carrying a box of his father's belongings, Daniel felt the shove. Subtle, calculated. Enough to throw his balance but not send him tumbling. He caught himself just in time. The box slamming into the wall. The air behind him felt charged, expectant, angry. That night, Daniel found something he wasn't meant to. Behind a loose panel in the basement wall, he discovered his father's old notebook, thin, brittle pages filled with cramped handwriting, maintenance logs, measurements, and confessions disguised as notes. Frank Brooks had known the house hadn't been helping him, it had been helping his father. Frank had relied on it, let it steady him, let it adjust shelves, hold ladders, brace beams while he worked alone. And then one final entry. I shouldn't have let it do so much. Now it won't let go. Daniel closed the notebook, understanding settling in like coal. The coast didn't help, it replaced. The house began testing him. Tools slipped from his grasp when he tried to work independently. Lights flickered when he set things down. The stairs seemed steeper when he carried nothing. But when he lifted heavy objects, the air grew supportive again, balanced, helpful. Lena fell on the basement steps 2 days later. She wasn't carrying anything. Daniel heard the crash from upstairs. By the time he reached her, she was shaken but conscious. I felt something pull away, she whispered, like it chose not to help. That night, the house grew restless. Footsteps followed Daniel when he carried boxes. Shadows crowded closer. The weight on his back lingered longer, fingers digging in possessively. He realized then the coast wasn't angry, it was afraid. Afraid of being unnecessary. Daniel made his decision at dawn. He carried his father's last box into the basement. The air thickened immediately, welcoming. The shadows aligned, ready. He set the box down. The pressure vanished. I won't let you carry me, Daniel said loud. His voice shook, but he didn't stop. And I won't let you push me either. The house resisted. The stairs groaned. The air pressed back. Daniel stood firm, empty handed. For the first time, nothing supported him, nothing opposed him. The basement settled into stillness. When Daniel moved out weeks later, the house felt heavier but quieter. The new owners reported nothing unusual, except one thing: the basement door never stayed open anymore, unless someone was carrying something.